Welcome to Your Iconic Image. If you want to take control of your image and be a power player in your space, then this is the show for you. Here we will arm you with tools and information to help you grow your brand on purpose. I'm your host, Marlana Semenza, photographer and visual strategist. Now let's dive into today's episode. Nationally recognized, Lauren Davis creates memorable personal brand messages that convert. She learned early on how to transform one-hit tactics into a personalized brand that drives legendary visibility. Welcome, Lauren.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun.
So I want to hit you with kind of two questions at once. The
Yeah.
first one is, how do we take control of our online presence? And the second one is, how much control do we actually have?
Ooh, those are good questions. Okay, this is how I believe. I work with lots of people who are building a personal brand, so coaches and consultants, but also with a lot of small businesses. So small, like brick and mortar businesses, small mom and pop shops, even. And so they're very, very different types of businesses, but those are my two things that I just love helping. And what I always truly believe is that businesses should try to take as much control over their brand online as possible. And so there's a couple ways to do that, of course. Building your, like, on the very most minuscule way, building your social media platforms. So making sure that you have a presence on the platforms that you are serving your customers on. The biggest ones, of course, being Facebook and Instagram. For some businesses, especially coaches and consultants, LinkedIn might be the place where it's at for them. But just making sure that I always say, if you have the ability to take ownership over your name or over your business name on a certain platform, you should probably do it. Now, that doesn't mean that you should let accounts sit there and die and not have any movement and not have any engagement on there. And there are some very simple ways that you can kind of keep your presence active even on the platforms that you're not necessarily on all the time, while keeping them very active on the platform where you're serving your audience the most. To the second part of that is, keep an eye on your online presence. If you're building your personal brand and you're building it around your name, I would definitely recommend just even as simple as Googling yourself. Take control of your personal brand by asking yourself, well, how am I showing up to other people online? So, for instance, when I Google my name, I Google Lauren Davis, which is my name, but I also Google Lauren V. Davis. I Google Lauren Vonix Davis, which is my maiden name in the middle there. I put all of the different, or I just Google Lauren Vonix. I put all the different ways that my name could be spelled or listed in an online presence. And I also set up Google Alerts. So that way, when my name gets mentioned in an article, or if I have a piece of press come out and my name is in it, then Google is going to send me an email and say, Lauren V. Davis, we found your name in this article. So that's one way to definitely get an idea of taking control of your personal brand online. How much control do we have of it, really? We have a lot of control, honestly. We do have a lot of control over how our personal brand or how our business shows up online. You can take advantage of all of the free social media platforms. You can build your website, and it takes a little bit of effort to really dive into what will bring people to your website first. But you can control the narrative of how your presence shows up online, and you might as well do it because it's going to help your particular unique audience find you better.
So let's say we Google ourselves
Mhm.
and we either don't like what we're seeing or there's not enough of what we're seeing. How long does it take to correct that situation?
So it really depends on how much is out there that you don't like, to be honest. But the one thing that you always have control over, the one thing you can constantly do is create more content. So continue to create good content that ranks higher in Google, that shows up in social media. If you find something that you don't necessarily like, maybe do some deep digging into what you don't like about that article and see how you can truly correct it from the inside out. Maybe it's something you've said, maybe it's something that you don't like the quote that you did in this article anymore. It could be as simple as that. Really do some deep digging into what it is that you don't like about that and see how you can kind of outrank that yourself. by showing up as the real person that you are, by showing up as the genuine person that you are. I think in 2021, and I mean it's been starting a while back, but now especially in 2021, there's going to be no ability to be fake or be disingenuous anymore. There's no hacks, no bot growth. Like that kind of stuff is out, and conversations and real, genuine relationships with your audience are in a big way. And if you're not taking advantage of that, and you're not holding that dear to your heart, then my recommendation would be to start getting serious about that.
So how do we have those kind of conversations online?
I mean, it really boils down to just knowing who your audience is. And I know we hear that over and over and over again in our we hear that on podcasts, we see it on social media, we see people say, oh, get to know your audience and that's how you'll grow your following and all of that. And to some extent that's true, but let me tell you how I would recommend getting to know your audience. First of all, if you think about like a networking event and you're hanging out and you're at a networking event, right? And you show up, you go through the door, and you see a whole bunch of people in the room, right? And the first thing that would happen is maybe a person comes up to you and shoves their business card in your face, and they like do their elevator pitch at you, and your eyes just kind of glaze over. Like we've all been here in pre-COVID times, of course, networking, and we've all been there where like someone's just like pitching you right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, who is this person? Like, I'm never going to do business with them. This is so off putting and so annoying, right? So that's situation one. Situation two would be, they come up, they ask you a very directed question, like meant to really engage you right away. And then as you're answering, they're looking over the top of your head. Well, me, because I'm short, they're looking over the top of my head.
Me too.
Looking past me and just like looking for the next best person to talk to in the room and not even listening to my answer. At the end of that interaction, you really don't feel good about that interaction whatsoever. You're just like, okay, they seemed promising, but what, I don't know. So then the situation number three is that you are, you know, you get to a networking event, you spend time connecting with somebody, you maybe cheers, you clink glasses, you say, oh, this has been so great getting to know you. You both ask questions back and forth, and it just feels so good. You feel like, man, this person is someone I want to know. I want to get to know. Then you set up a coffee date. And then maybe 2 weeks later, you have coffee and you talk a little more about your businesses. And then you decide at that coffee meeting, like, maybe we can do business together. Let's do some business together, right? And that feels much more real and aligned. And if I always ask people if social media is feeling strained and forced to you, and if capturing your online presence and really getting to know people online, getting to know your audience is feeling strained, it might be because it's not aligned with how you get to know people in real life. And that is why I always teach that you can use social media just as you would be yourself in real life. And that's really how you open the door to those conversations. Now, that being said, there are a couple different things you can think about when you're really trying to come up with your audience. And what I really tell people is to start with those 15 people that always come and watch your posts or like your posts or comment. There's always like those few people, and you're like, oh, why are they the only ones that ever like my posts? Well, there's a reason why those people like your posts. It probably has something to do with your business and your character, and they're there for a reason. So don't just ignore them. Pay attention to the people that are already at your party first. But the middle ground in that Venn diagram of who is already showing up for you and who you want your intended audience to be, somewhere in the middle there is your sweet spot. So thinking about your audience, a lot of times we just kind of think about the demographics. So demographics, which are like what gender, where they live, some things like that, demographics, right? But there's also psychographics and behavioral psychographics. So I always ask people to not only think about the demographics like age, gender, income, employment size, not just the geographic piece, which is city, state, community, address, region, climate, but also think about psychographics, which are the values that your customers hold, their beliefs, their interests, their lifestyle, their activities and hobbies, their opinions, their personality traits. Think about their behavioral psychographics. So why are they loyal to your organization? What are their patterns of past support? What are their patterns of supporting you as a business? Really get to know those things, and that's how you get to know your audience. People always say, get to know your audience, get to know. That is actually how you get to know your audience on a much deeper and much more genuine way.
Love that. Now, let me just for a minute go back to your networking event
Yeah.
scenario. Let's say, though, that there's somebody across the room
Yeah.
and we just have been dying to get to know this particular person. We know that there would be such great synergy. We even like the same shoes, the whole bit. How do we start to facilitate that relationship when it's online?
So if you know that there's somebody that you want to get connected with, that's where I tell you to kind of go back to how you're really feeling in real life. Like, how would you open up a conversation with that person if you were in the same room? Would you go over and compliment them on something they're doing? Would you tell them, like, I've noticed your podcast is really great and I really loved this episode? Think about how you would really get connected with somebody if you were really trying to know them in real life. I think online we think everything should be so fast. That's why if you're on LinkedIn, you get all those pitches in your inbox and they're just aggravating. And then you don't answer or you say no thanks and then they come back at you with something else. Like, in what world do we do business with someone after the first thing they say to us?
Right.
Like, there's never a time where this works. And so it just blows my mind to think that people out there think that that works. And, you know, if you were really thinking about getting to know somebody, I would honestly figure out why you want to get to know them. First of all, ask yourself, what is the reason I actually want to get to know them? Is it because I want to do business with them? Is it because I want to learn more about their business? Is it because I love their podcast or I love their shoes or, whatever it might be? Ask yourself that and then find that common ground. Find that common factor with that person and see, hey, what is it about this person that I can connect with them on? So that goes into that psychographic piece, their values, their beliefs, their interests, their lifestyle. And then ask yourself after that, how can I really bring value to this person? Not in the way of like, I deliver value bombs 24/7, not like that, but just in the way of like, how am I going to improve this person's life by being in it? And sometimes that can be a hard one because we all have a little bit of imposter syndrome and we say like, oh, why would they need me, right? But there's a unique reason that you're here on this earth, and if you are going to connect with someone, you'll find the most genuine way to do it by really thinking about who that person is and what your common ground is and connecting with them in a very human and very genuine way.
So let's say we want to take all of that and we want to, because I love in your bio that you talk about legendary visibility.
Yes.
So how do we gain that kind of visibility?
Okay,
What does that mean to you?
So I talk about legendary visibility a lot because when we were starting our record store and gift boutique, I was 19 years old and my husband was 25. He was my boyfriend at the time. And we knew nothing about starting a business. All we knew was like we were going to deliver constantly to all of the people who would come and come to our business. So with that, they started paying attention and I said, okay, how are we going to get more people to know about us when we are so, like, we're young, people don't know us, they've never heard of us, they've never heard of our business. How are we going to get people to do this? And we started by putting ourselves everywhere online that we could. So in 2006, that was MySpace, that was YouTube, Twitter came out maybe 2007, I think. And then Facebook eventually opened up for more than just college students. So we got ourselves on Facebook, then Instagram. So all of these things, every time there was a new social media platform, we leaned into it. We said, okay, how can we lean into this and find our people on that platform? What happened after that is we started realizing, as we leaned into that and as more people got to know us, we started really thinking about how can we build a legendary brand. So not only are we becoming visible to people and building up our reputation as not only building up a reputation, but building up a reputation around being a great place to go, a welcoming and an open place to go, which was very in line with our morals and our values and our beliefs. All right, so how do we become legendary? Well, there's a few different ways. A couple different ways was we needed to get some national attention. So we started building up our portfolio of guesting on people's podcasts or becoming guest contributors in articles. We got reviewed by Goldmine Magazine, which is a iconic record reviewing an audiophile magazine. Then we had a little excerpt in Wired magazine, and we started thinking, okay, there's that. So now we've contributed. Now some people nationally have heard our names. We would reach out to different organizations that were throwing vinyl events throughout the country, like Record Store Day. We would ask them to share our poster, or when we would do a different event, we would tweet them and see if they would kind of share. So we really did this from the inside out. And then the last piece of that is we said, okay, how do we become legendary? So when anyone who's a record collector who's listening to this will know that many times record collectors are very nostalgic about the records that they purchase. They are very in tune with records they purchase. It's almost like every purchase has a story or has some kind of meaning behind it. And a lot of times when you buy an old record collection, or when you get hand-me-downs of your mom's or dad's record collection, you'll see a sticker on it from like the record store that they got it from. And it says, in our case, we see a lot of them from Apple Tree Records, which was an old iconic record store here in the Midwest. And so we thought, okay, how can we bring this even further? We constantly are asking ourselves, how can we be that legendary record store that people talk about later on, like 30 years from now, 50 years from now, when someone is getting their dad or their mom's record collection or their grandma's record collection, and they are looking through the records, and how will they know that those records came from Culture Shock? What stories will people tell about coming to shop for records at Culture Shock? And so we started thinking about things like that. So little inserts we could put inside the record sleeves, stickers we could put on the plastic so it doesn't ruin the cover, but it stays on the plastic. A lot of people save those things. Doing interesting things with our receipts that ask people to share things online, that ask people to share their purchases or tell others about something, and telling them the importance of how much that benefits a local business. So just doing little things to help our customers and help our audiences take ownership in creating this legendary story around our brand or business. And so when I work with another business, when I work with a personal brand, I say, how can we make your presence legendary? And for every business, it's different. For every personal brand, it's a completely different path. But asking yourself, what do I want to be known for later on? That can really help solidify your path to visibility and help you move in the right direction. And I just tell that story about Culture Shock anecdotally because it is something I lived through from 19 years old to now I'm 33 years old. It's something that I lived firsthand, and I started that without knowing a thing. I didn't even know what the word graphic design or marketing really meant when I first started when I was 19. I wanted to be a journalist. So this was like a completely separate path that I didn't expect to go down, and it was something that really found me. And I eventually went back to school for it, and I did all of the learning I could do. But it was something that really stuck out to me, was the ability to look beyond what's currently in front of you and say, what do I want to be known for? How do I want to be remembered?
Love all that. And I think it's also worth underscoring the fact that all of that was proactive on your part.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, it definitely was. I have never really thought about it that way. So thank you. Yeah.
So now we're doing all of these things, but at the end of the day, we're a business
Yeah.
and we are looking to convert people. So how do
Hmm.
we take all of that and use it to convert people to do business with us?
Well, it one statistic that really sticks out to me is that people are it's a statistic I heard from Sprout Social a while back, but people are 16 times more likely to read a post from a friend than to from a brand.
Mm,
So this is how I tell local businesses, especially because they're like, well, we have a store. Why would I put my face in there? Why would I put my my presence in there when I want people to support my store, my restaurant, right? And so I always tell them that your job as a local business owner is to be the face of your brand
mm-hmm,
and to connect with people and to be their friend. When people believe they're friends, it's because they believe that their friends have their best interests at heart. So that's why influencer marketing is huge. But we can take a little piece of that. We can take a little sliver of that as local business owners and know that people are 16 times more likely to buy from us, to trust us, to want to hear our opinions on things. And we can use that for good. We can use that for the good of our business. We can use that for the good of the purposes we stand behind and for the good of our communities.
mm. So let's say right now somebody is starting from scratch.
Hmm.
They are the 19-year-old version of you.
Yeah.
What is the one thing that they can do now to help grow and take control of their online presence?
Okay. So the one piece of it, like one thing that they can do is to just lean in. Like that's really what I would suggest is adapt quicker than you think you should. So the minute TikTok came out, I was watching it. I was just contemplating how it worked. I was seeing what was going on. When Reels came out on Instagram, I started making Reels and they were not good. I'll just say that. Like not everything is perfect right away, but start like test things. That's what I would say. It's a constant test. You'll never reach the finish line. What if you know that and if that's okay with you, that you're never going to reach that finish line and that you'll always be testing and seeing what works, seeing what something makes possible, then you'll never have to reach the finish line and that will be alleviated off your shoulders. So adapt quickly, lean into new things and new possibilities, and be excited about the future.
Love all of that, Lauren. And with that,
Thanks.
I just have four final questions for you.
Okay, great.
Okay, first one is what's the best piece of advice you were ever given?
Okay, when I was first starting my business, I was a little bit worried about competition. Just not, I, it was part not because I was concerned about it, but because I thought, when I started my graphic design business, I thought, um, my branding business. I thought I'm not as good as everyone else and they're going to undercut me and you know all things we tell ourselves when we really things are you are good at what you do and you don't need to worry about stuff like that. And this lady who I knew from local business groups and she was a local business owner in my community. She's like, you know, many years older than me and she's like I don't know if I can say badass. But she's so cool. She's like a sign maker. She's a sign printer. She's like up on scaffolding, like installing signs all across our community. And she said something like, hey, don't ever worry about anyone competing with you because there's enough business to go around. And if you always believe that, you will never not have a job. And I took that from that moment on. I took that to heart and I said, I am not worried about competition. Do I compare myself sometimes? Yes. And that is something I would like to work on for myself. So, but I would say that also ties into it. I compare myself less than I would have if I had never heard that piece of advice. And I think that comparison and competition are things that you can use in a healthy way. and you don't have to be worried about them. And if the minute I stopped worrying about that, it was the minute that all the doors opened up. So I would say that's my best piece of advice I've ever been given, and it really means a lot to me.
Share with us one thing on your bucket list.
One thing on my bucket list. Well, I've been to Latvia, which is the country that my grandma and grandpa are from, several times, but I've always wanted to like go have an extended stay there. So that would be definitely part of my bucket list. I have a lot of relatives there. I would love to go stay at a beachy house on the Baltic Sea somewhere and just stay there for several weeks at a time. Maybe even a whole summer sometime. That would definitely be a bucket list item for me.
Nice. When the toy companies finally get around to making an action figure of you, what 2 accessories will it come with?
2 accessories. Okay. I would say probably a little dog. That would be one of them. I love my dog so much. I'm just like a total basic girl when it comes to my dog. Like I want her to go everywhere with me. I'm sad when I'm away from the house for a few hours. I just want to like go cuddle her. And she like sits here in my office every day. So I love my dog, and that would definitely be one of the accessories. I think the other accessory would probably be, it'd probably either be a MacBook or a cup of coffee. I can't decide.
Well, we'll let you have 3 then.
Okay, good.
And the last thing is, if everybody wants to find out more about you and all the secret sauce that you bring to the table, how do they find you?
I love hanging out on Instagram. It's my favorite platform. I'm very readily available there. So if you DM me, like, come say hi. I'm all about conversations and having real conversations with people. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn as Lauren V. Davis. On Instagram is L Davis Creative. And lastly, I have a podcast as well. It's called the Real Personal Branding Podcast. It's my favorite thing ever. It's like so amazing. I've had wonderful guests. And we just talk about building a personal brand and all the little things, marketing tips and tricks that go into building that personal brand. So come find me over there if you love listening to podcasts.
Perfect. Thank you so very much. And thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited that I got to do this with you, and you are just such a wonderful person.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Once again, I'm Marlana Semenza, photographer and visual strategist. Please comment, like, or share this episode, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. For more information on how I can help you create your iconic image, visit marlanasemenza.com.